Welcome to CEIBS Executive Lunch Conversations with the CEOs. Today, we are speaking with David Sancho. David started his career as lawyer in Spain. He has 10 years of working in law and real estate at an international level. He moved to Asia to lead the launch and development of the Mango fashion brand. Currently, he is the CEO of Mango, East Asian and India Business Division, and also proud alumnus of CEIBS Global MBA program. So thank you, David, for being here with us.
Thank you, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be back home. Thank you, Professor, for having me today.
You have a long experience already in China. Actually, you were like a pioneer. You opened the operations of Mango in this country. Last time I talked with you, you told me that you have to relearn a lot of things when you first moved to China. Can you tell us a little bit about this relearning?
So when I first came to China, I have to be honest and say it was a really harsh landing. I came from Spain, as you know. That was my first time in China, and I came with my own set of tools to apply to this market. I was very successful in the Western civilization, and I thought that set of tools were applicable to this market. So I came here, and it was really a big shock to understand that that was not applicable here, as China is a huge market, but with its own nuances, challenges, and differences, as well as its beauties and richness. So what happens to me, I divide in three steps, I would say. First step takes a cure of humility to understand that I have to reset myself because that was not working. So that was my first year, was to clean everything in my mind and to make sure I was eager to go to my second step, that was to learn again and to embrace that journey with joy. That leads me to the third step, that was to then finally apply what I learned in my second step. So relearning for me was critical, and long story short, I believe now that copy-paste only works for Microsoft.
Very good. How long it took that process?
I said it as 1,000 days, so 3 years basically. First year, I say it's reset because you need some time to understand you're not doing the right things. That takes time and courage because you come from a place that you are applying successful things, and then it takes you a moment to understand that, wow, this is not working here. And that takes a time to reflect, understand, and then act or react. And the only way to act in China, to me at least, was to learn from the culture, from the country, then to be able to apply the new tools.
Can you give a specific example of one of these things that you have to relearn?
One thing that for me was amazing, it comes from the CEIBS module about HR. In Europe, the tendency in some companies are more vertical. And here I discovered the Young's pyramid, the importance of getting a local, powerful team that allows you to execute in a successful way your strategy. So this takes not only skill sets, but also finding the right people with the right mindset that combines with the DNA of your own company, and most important, to empower them. So this was a relearning process, not me coming here to say what you have to do, but me coming here to establish the right team that will execute correctly for this market.
And you have to spend time in nurturing them, developing them.
That's super important, trusting them. I mean, you have to build trust. That's a completely different culture.
How fast they adapt to the culture of your company?
It takes time. It's not a plug and play solution that you just can then, you explain what is your company and then they adapt. I think something I learned as well is the art of listening. You need to really employ a lot of time to understand the questions, understand the values they have, their ambitions, their view on the market. And this is a little bit some of the tools that help me a lot on something that happens across cultures, is the cross-cultural management. I think this is a big topic when you're coming from one market to another market. You are facing that issue, and it's not easy to solve. And to me, it takes time, and it takes yourself to adapt to others, not others adapt to yourself.
Based on this long experience that you have already in China, 10 years, I'm sure you have seen a lot of transformation in this country. And one of them is all the digital, what I call the digital revolution. Changes in the consumer behavior, competition. Do you think Chinese consumers have developed their unique fashion identity? And what does the Chinese consumer values now in this new setting in this country?
So the journey has been, the change of the consumer behavior journey has been, to me, dramatic in a positive angle. I remember back then when I first came to China was 2006, when I was discovering this market. And I remember back then, we as brands, what we were trying is to influence the trends and the styles that customers in China should wear. We're using magazines, fashion shows, we're pushing a little bit that our way of understanding fashion was the correct one. And then we were trying to push the offer. That was an offering push, right? Trying to sell whatever we had on mind. And then for the last 14 years, I have seen a dramatic change based for me in 3 angles. The first one is Chinese consumers starting to travel a lot. So instead of only receiving inputs from us from the outside, they've been traveling more and more, and they have been able to access to the transparency in the market and to understand what was going to happen in France, in Italy, Spain, in US, and to have for their own understanding of what fashion was. Second trend I thought was very important, of course, is technology. I believe something that has happened in China, which is a miracle, is the evolution of technology in this market, that now it's one of the leading markets in terms of tech, and that has bring to the customer amazing things like transparency, plenty of information, and an immensity of digital touch points where the consumer now understands really what they want in a global space. So that has opened their eyes in terms of their behavior. The third thing for me, which is relevant now, and I'm really looking to see it, is the local brands. As you know, fashion is a very fragmented market in China. So basically, when you look at the pool of brands, which are the top sellers, they have a very big percentage of the market share because it's a huge and vast market. So what I'm seeing there is that when I came here, local brands, Chinese brands, were more like a commodity base, like made in China. That was not something that was considered for the customers. But now you can see that those brands are becoming global now. And I have seen the revolution, and we have clear examples of brands like Lily, UR, Bosiden, Heilan. Of course, if we took technology like Huawei is already there, but in fashion, I can see the trend now is those brands becoming global. And this is a little bit showing that the behavior of Chinese consumer is now affected not only in China, but it's being reproduced to the Western, which I'm really excited to see what's going to happen.
And you see that interest in fashion, not just the dress, but fashion, has been growing in this country in the last years?
Dramatically. I mean, if you look some verticals, and you take luxury as an example, which is the best market for luxury today? I'm not saying about pre-COVID, I'm saying it's China. I would say also because there is a very vast young population, digital native. They do have this passion of understanding what's the trends, but not only based on what the company may produce, but they are encouraging now brands to produce locally and have local collections or special collections for the market based on the taste and the values of the consumer, which I think is really, really exciting.
So also another impact of digital is in all the area of supply chain. Mango is a global brand. You have operation in many countries in the world. How this digital has impacted your supply chain?
It depends on the markets. So again, supply chain, you have a lot of changes. No, some of them driven by technology, which, as you're thinking of, I'm thinking of, is omni-channel. So how we combine offline stores to online stores using technology and using supply chain to be able to convert our physical stores into digital, like digital warehouses where we can serve our customer from the store to their home, right? And then try to optimize the last mile. Second thing which is happening in our fashion world, and not for Mango, but maybe for small players or pure players, 3D printing is changing the supply chain. Other things that are happening more specifically in China, what I have seen with supply chain is China has benefit. And 10 years ago, I didn't myself understand why there were so much investment in infrastructures And now these infrastructure capabilities are allowing us to serve any customer within China in maximum 48 hours, being the common ground 24 hours, which is what Tmall is pushing everyone to do it. And I don't think in other markets this is still available, but in China, because of this vast and huge investment that has been done for the last 10 years, supply chain has been also disrupted.
You mentioned that there are new Chinese brands emerging and even becoming global. There is still room for foreign brands in fashion in the Chinese market?
Absolutely. I don't see myself any global brand that can say I'm global and not being in China. For me, that's not something that it's possible to happen, especially China now being one of the leading markets in the world, no? And competing against US to understand who's going to take the market share of it, and seeing the internal growth consumption of the Chinese population, which is happening now. Said that, as a brand, when you plan to come to China, I believe, and that's my experience, you need to plan and to have a clear strategy on first, what's your DNA, and second, how much are you committed to this market? Mm-hmm. Because to come to China, it's not to just open a little store, put a little bit of money, and try to get an ROI which is going to be immediate. I don't believe in that. I believe that the huge commitment means economic commitment, resources commitment, talent commitment, and patience.
Patience.
So China is a huge market. So before understanding, should I go to China, which may end up with a yes, how I go to China? Do I do it on my own? Do I look for a local partner that may help me to develop my brand in the market? And how do I do that? Do I do it through a master franchisee? Do I do it through a JV partnership? Do I do it by selling my brand equity to the market? So there's a lot of possibilities, and I think to plan it ahead is critical to be successful in this market.
In the case of Mango, what was the preference in all these different options that you mentioned?
So in our case, we started with our common option when we developed new markets, which was with the franchisee. Mm-hmm. But that was 10 years ago that the franchisee model was, but we have to be adapting to the market. The market has been changing, and the market is demanding new ways of cooperating. So we're doing it our own way. We're acting by our own way on digital, and we're having also joint venture partners that operate in the market. So we are tackling the whole ecosystem.
You mentioned before also this combination between digital store and the brick and mortar store. How is that combination in your case? And what is the trend?
So the trend due to COVID as well is, on my view, accelerating very rapidly the transformation from the offline, that for me now offline has to have a reason to exist. Even it's a showroom for the clients to go there, touch, play with the brand. Either it's a place that it can be a digital warehouse, that it's very close to a hub of customers that then you can optimize your last mile delivery. But the rapid evolution of the online world that started with Tmall back then 2009, when we look at the numbers that 11/11 is delivering against the Black Friday, you can see that this transformation in China has already been happening the last 5 years. It's really exciting for me to be here now in China and understanding that I'm talking with you now, which may be 3 years ahead of what may happen in Europe.
Okay.
So what I see in Tmall, now what's happening here is WeChat, social selling, TikTok, social selling. So there is a lot of new players in this unique ecosystem just appearing that are pushing more the weight of the online channels versus the offline channels.
Yeah, you mentioned now that China is like 3 years ahead of Europe or many countries in the world. Do you think that Europeans, Americans are aware of this transformation that is coming? I mean, companies are preparing for that?
So that's a tricky question, and I will tell you why. China has a unique ecosystem, unique digital ecosystem, which is completely different from Western world. So if you compare about social media, we have here WeChat, you have WhatsApp in Western, and both systems are not, I would say, complementary or cannot be combined. So your strategy, which is based in Europe, you cannot replicate it or do copy-paste like we were doing before with Microsoft in China. So even in China, it's leading the path of what's going to happen in the future in Europe. It's hard for a lot of European companies to understand that this is going to happen in their existing ecosystems because they're not present yet in China, or they haven't developed those capabilities yet here to be able to embrace it in Europe more rapidly.
So in a way, your experience Mango in China is helping Mango in Europe to make the transformation?
We tried. It's complicated because, of course, the channels in Europe are different. So there are different channels. So again, you can take the experience as a conceptual experience. What is going to be the trend? What may happen with social selling? Is it Instagram become the new boom as it got Facebook before, and then people are going to be buying from Instagram, or they're going to be buying from TikTok, which is already applying in Europe? This is something that we can work already. But as a whole, as a copy-paste, it's complicated, but you can foresee the trends.
And from the consumer point of view, the European consumer, as an aftermath of the COVID-19, you think that this process is accelerated, that the consumers are getting used to the online ordering?
For sure, we're seeing that trend. For sure, we're seeing the way, and this is not because the online, offline, I will light that to tech. So the growth of technology is exponential. It's not linear. So I don't think it's just because of consumption behavior. It's just because the evolution of tech is going so rapidly that we as a human being, sometimes it's difficult for us to forecast because we try to forecast linearly, but then the evolution of technology is so rapid that it's impossible for us. So I think the adaptation to the new world, it's here to stay.
In which way CEIBS, our global MBA, help you in that relearning that you mentioned before?
For me, and I have to be very honest, I feel at home here. And even still here in China after 10 years is because I consider CEIBS my family.
Okay, good.
And I think from someone like me coming to work in China, from a different country, from far away, 10,000 kilometers away, and be able to survive here in this market and to have attachment, the fact that I enroll in CEIBS has been crucial. I didn't expect that when I enrolled. So let me be very clear. When I joined CEIBS was because I'm a lawyer by training. I had a new role position to become leader here in China in business. So my main purpose to join CEIBS was to acquire a new set of tools that will help me as a leader to perform better in my job. But then I received the biggest gift I received here was that the fact I could get and share a journey for 2 years, back then in 2012, with 58 brothers and sisters, most of them from China, give me a China depth about the values, the history, the vision, the return on investment on that particular mindset. I didn't forecast it when I joined CEIBS first. And the last part, which also is important, it happens to me now, and it was in one of your models, Professor Juan, that was about purpose in life. The fact that after doing this journey, embedding subconsciously in my head that sometimes I need to stop and reflect and ask myself, I am doing it right. Is there other ways to do it? Do I have to still relearning? This has been the 3 ways of how CEIBS has really made me who I am now.
Very good, very thankful for your words. I've been MBA director for 3 years, so I stopped in last June. And my last question is about MBAs. Thinking of your industry, fashion industry, that can be a potential employer for our MBAs. What type of characteristics you look in your talent, the talent that you hire?
So first for this question, I will have two very good news for the MBA students, I would say, especially nowadays. First, they're doing an MBA in CEIBS, so they get an amazing technical skills, which now in this current disruption and shakeout of the business industry due to digital transformation is needed more than ever.
Okay.
So all these new skills, these digital native people, I think is the best time never to enter any industry because they have the tools that we didn't have in our moment. Second, they have the China depth. So top market in the world with sustainable growth. Already these two gifts in their baggage, they have a lot of things to deliver to companies. Say that in fashion industry, this is the moment when the entry level for MBA students, for me, is the easiest, as they can enter by joining companies like Mango or like the big players that has been there for ages. But now with the technological disruption, there is so many ways that they can enter the fashion industry with very little investments through creative startups, disrupting the supply chain by adding some technology that may enhance any of the parts that we are doing. 3D printing, we're commenting. Any customer experience in online that may help the customer to convert more. Go for crowdfunding and create your own brand. So with the tools they have, I think it's up to them to enter the industry. In terms of capabilities, I will say it's about having the positive attitude. Keep eager to be curious, keep eager to learn. And my message will be go and conquer.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much for
You're
your
welcome.
time. Thank you.
Real pleasure. Thank you.